Welcome to Garden Wise Adventures. My name is Malie, and today I finished my front yard video tour, and I'll link that up above. But I decided that I'm going to do a food forest update. I'm just going to see if I can do a quick video, which is really hard for me because I love to talk about my fruit trees. But I'm just going to do a quick update on what my fruit trees are doing and show you what I can harvest and what is still coming up. Now, the first place we're going to start is my front yard. We're going to start on the opposite side of the driveway in my front yard, show you my figs. They've been featured a lot, so we'll do that quickly. Show you my pistachio and then move into this part of the front yard. So part of my food forest includes my fig trees. This is on the south side of my house, on the south side of my driveway. This is a Chicago Hardy. We've got little figs developing. And then this is a Desert King with only 2 figs on it, but they're the Braba crop, and it's looking really happy. They really like this spot, and I will see if I can link some videos up at the top to show more how I grow my figs. Actually, I'll link just my fig update video up there so you can see that. This is one of my favorite spots to plant ground cherries. This is the Miss Molly variety that tastes like pineapple. This was one that I started by seed, and then this is a volunteer. Here's another little volunteer. So we've kind of got them growing all over. This in the back here is a Peruvian ground cherry that has a larger cherry to it, and it is just absolutely delicious, so I'm really excited about that. These are Rubris Pentalobium, which is a, I can't remember the common name, but it is a ground cover raspberry. Supposedly it does produce edible fruits. You can see the little flowers here. This one has never fruited for me. Here's a little bud that flowered, but I'm not feeling any fruit forming in it. Supposedly they're edible, but I am really happy with it just as a ground cover. It's a really pretty little ground cover. Here's an update on my pistachio. I will link a video up at the top on my pistachio trees, and it's doing beautifully. I'm really happy with this. This is its 3rd year. Supposedly it takes 10 to be able to fruit, and I have to know if I have a male and a female, and I won't know until it flowers and fruits if I have a male and female. If I don't have one or the other, then I'm thinking that I'll try and graft a branch. You know, we have several people in this area that are trying to grow these, and I think I'll see if I can get together with one of them and maybe switch scion wood and see if we can graft either the male or the female, whichever is needed, to my trees so that we can have production. But I'm really excited to see if we can actually get pistachios off of this. This is my laced up elderberry. It's part of the food forest. I did plant a Serenade Elderberry, which is another Sambucus nigra, which will be a pollinator for this. So eventually, when the Serenade gets big enough and starts to flower, we'll get elderberries off of this. Supposedly they're not as good as the common elderberries, but you know, it'll be fun to try them out and see how they are. Otherwise, they're an absolutely gorgeous, both of them are absolutely gorgeous ornamental plants. Over here, we have my struggling 4-year-old little pawpaw. This one's a seedling pawpaw that got drought stricken last year, and I lost 3/4 of it, which really broke my heart. Well, actually, it was the year before, and it really has not put on a lot of growth since that point. But it's continuing to grow, it's still alive, so we're going to leave it. That is in contrast to my Davis pawpaw over here. And I found out recently that you can actually hand pollinate a pawpaw with its own flowers. So next year I'm going to have to show you how to do that. This year I didn't have the time to do the video of doing it. But for the past 6 years, this was planted in 2009, for the past 6 years I've had pawpaws that I've been able to harvest off of it. And I have a seedling in the back that's still alive from one of the seeds off of this tree. But with the hand pollinating, I don't know if we'd have had less fruit, but you can see the baby fruits right there. We have them all over the tree. This was a good year, which I was worried about it because you can see these little dead buds. We had a freeze right when the first blooms came out and all the buds froze. But then it rebloomed and it just finished with its blooms. And it's formed quite a bit of fruit. Look at the size of these up here. There's like 3 of them up here. But we have fruit all over. This is going to be my biggest harvest. I'm really excited. The understory fruit here are strawberries. They're doing quite well, but I have to come out and hand water them because they need a lot more water than everything else in this area. So we'll see if I want to continue hand watering strawberries in the front. But I thought it would be fun to have all of the edges covered in strawberries. This is my Medlar tree. I'll post a picture of what it looked like in bloom. The bloom was glorious again this spring. Got a ton more fruit on it. And I'll post a video up at the top that talks about Medlar jelly and Medlar cheese. I made the Medlar cheese and froze it, and I just finished eating it. It was really good. And so, just watch that video and see what it looks like. But these are great trees to grow here in Utah. This is my Bounty almond. I think I stunted them by pruning them a little bit late in the spring. They'd already started to leaf out just a tiny little bit. And so this one did not leaf out until about 3 weeks ago. And it's finally starting to grow in. It looks a little anemic, but I think it'll catch up. I'm not too worried about it. But my Nikita's Pride on the other side, let's show you that one. The Nikita's Pride is still alive, but it has not budded out yet. I'm not quite sure what to do about it. I'm just going to leave it until next year and see if it leaves out next year. It may leaf out in August, or it may not leaf out. If it doesn't leaf out, then I'll just replace it with another Nikita's Pride and try to prune it at the proper time. This is my brand new little Autumn Magic Aronia or chokeberry. Got a ton of fruit on it. The fruit is edible. Now this one is chlorotic looking, but this one that was chlorotic last year is not as chlorotic as the other one. I did put chelated iron on this one in the spring and in the fall last year, but we've got berries on this one too. Those are edible but not tasty. This is my 1-year-old, not even 1 year. I planted it this spring. I think the person who gave it to me rooted it last fall. But we've got a little fig on my unknown variety of fig that's here in my front yard. This is my little yellowhorn seedling. It's got edible nuts. It was planted as a seed by a friend last fall and was planted this spring. It's got a bit of new growth and it's looking healthy, so I think it should do well. I'm excited to try that one out. We've got my Slovatsky Pomegranate that made it through the winter with some protection. Leafed out really well, and I'm expecting to see fruit off of it next year. I'll protect it again this winter and see how it does, but I'm really excited about this hardy pomegranate. This is a Russian pomegranate that's really hardy. This is my Doris hazelnut. It's actually a pollinator for the Lincoln on the other side, but I'm hoping that it does well. It gets blasted with the winds here, so it's leaning a little bit, but it's also going to grow like a shrub. So I may or may not stake it. We're just going to wait until next year and see how it looks. But I'm excited to have hazelnuts. This is my Lincoln hazelnut that's filling in nicely. This one's not been hit as bad by the wind, so it's not leaning like the other one. This is a Carmine Jewel and a Juliet bush cherry. They're doing beautifully, and I'm hoping maybe we'll get some fruit next year. We'll see. They didn't flower this year because they're newly planted this year. They're a little close together, but we'll see what we can do with pruning, but I'm betting I'm probably going to have to move the Carmine Jewel. This right here is a Borealis honeyberry that is doing beautifully. It doesn't have any fruit on it, and it didn't get any flowers this year, but I think next year it should explode in growth and we should get some berries off of it. Then the last thing in my front yard, this is my sunflower pawpaw. It took forever to leaf out, but look at the growth on this. It is looking absolutely gorgeous. We've got it shaded. We'll keep it shaded for the next couple of years. This amount of shade seems to be just perfect. This is south over here. I'm on the west side. And so it gets a little bit of sun at the end of the day, but this seems to be the perfect amount of shade for it. But I'm really excited how much growth this has gotten. Now we're in my backyard where the true food forest begins, but I really wanted to include edibles in the front, so that's why we started off at the front. But let me show you what's blooming in the back and what we can harvest and what's still waiting to be harvested. Now the goal with the ornamental parts of my landscape is to have something in bloom or some color and texture all year round. And I have that same goal with the food that I have. I want something that I can be harvesting as much as I can throughout the year. Now this is zone 6. We're in Utah. We have some pretty cold winters. It's really difficult to grow things outside over the winter that are harvestable. But I've had some that I've been able to harvest using hoop houses and different methods to harvest. So I'll link some videos up on the top to show you about those. But right now I'm going to show you all my trees that I have growing right now in my backyard and berries. First one is my Aurora honeyberry, and we did get a harvest off of this. A little one. I got 2 berries off of it, but we had about 20 on the bush, and what happened is I assumed birds would not know what a honeyberry is because nobody grows them around here. But the birds found the honeyberries the second they turned blue and then harvested even the green ones, which really made me sad. So anyway, we have an Aurora honeyberry here. It was delicious, the ones that I did get. Little tart, but also sweet with a really different undertone that I really liked. We've got my spearmint that I may need to move because it just has not thrived. It's grown in this position for years, but it also had lawn water. And now it's only getting watered about twice a week, which is not enough for spearmint. So I may need to move this somewhere else where it gets a little bit more water. This is my golden currant. I had to stake it up. It's really floppy. I'm not sure why it's flopping so much. I didn't think they did that, but it's been flopping. But we're also starting to get berries. But we're also starting to get ripe berries. Now the birds also find these and strip them pretty clean. I may try and cover this, or I may just let the birds have it. I'm not sure. They are pretty good once they're fully ripe, if you can actually get a fully ripe berry off of them. And the only reason not to get a fully ripe berry is because the birds get them before you. This is a Jostaberry. It's brand new, has not had time to fruit yet, but it will get fruit off of it next year, and I'm excited to see what it's like. It's a cross between a gooseberry and a currant. This is a lemon balm that's reseeded itself everywhere up at the top. You know, one year I was dumb and I threw the flower heads thinking that they were too young to have seeds in them up in my compost pile, and basically started a lemon balm forest up there. This is a brand new pink champagne currant. I'm excited for berries next year. These are supposedly one of the better tasting currants, so I'm really excited about that. We also have a brand new, still struggling, but it was a brand new Primus currant, but it's coming out of it. I think it'll be just fine, and we'll have berries on this hopefully next year. Before we get to the actual food forest, let's just kind of move our way around to the outside edges here. Up here we have my Jujube. It got a heavy pruning this year. It's a little lower, which makes me happy, but also we've had some lower branches dying off. It's an older tree, which I think we're going to get some replacements here. Maybe I can stretch this out and get a lower branch here. We'll see. But anyway, this is a Jujube, and we've got buds all over it. Let me see if, I don't know if you're even going to be able to see them. Jujube buds are very tiny. They're not open yet, but we're going to get a ton of fruit off it again this year. This gives me huge harvests, and I'll link some Jujube harvests up at the top. Huge harvest of service berries. Service berries are not ripe until the stem area is completely black. Now there's a ton of hornets. See, they live right there. We'll move very slowly. But as you can see right here, this is a darker berry. It looks like it's ripe, but if you look at the stem end, it's not ripe. It's still red there. Once it turns black near the stem, then it's ripe. Right up here is where those hornets are living. I need to go get out at night and spray them. We've got pineapple mint, which I absolutely love. That's edible. This is lime balm, which is a cousin of lemon balm. Smells fantastic, and it's also edible. Got chocolate mint in here, which I love. This is an Invictus gooseberry. First year, and we've already got a little cluster of fruit there, so I'm really excited about that one. This is my maypop. I started it by seed from a fruit that a friend gave me. He also here in Utah was growing maypops, and he had some fruit on it, gave me the fruit. I took the seeds, planted them last spring, and they grew and flowered beautifully. Did not fruit, but they flowered, and now these survived the winter and they're coming back up. Now the maypop is a type of passion fruit. The flavor, you know, because I grew the tropical passion fruit in California and loved it. That's Passiflora edulis. This is Passiflora incarnata. And the fruit that I was able to taste from the friend was almost exactly the same, just a little more tart. You know, and the flavor was not quite as rich as the edulis, but it was very tasty. I really liked it, so I'm excited to get fruit off of this. Now, I just did a video that I'll link up at the top on how I summer pruned my fruit trees. This is a Dapple Dandy Pluot. We're only getting one Pluot on it this year because we do not have the proper pollinators, and we also had a freeze right when it was in bloom. I did plant the proper pollinators this spring, and I'll show you those, but I'm hoping with pollinators we'll get more fruit because the Dapple Dandy Pluot is delicious. It's a mix between apricot and plums done by Zager Nurseries, which is an affiliate of Dave Wilson Nurseries. And they mix plums and apricots in varying degrees and create all sorts of amazing hybrids, including they'll mix nectarines and cherries and all sorts of things, and they're delicious. So definitely try, they're called interspecific hybrids. Definitely try those out. They're awesome. Here's my apples. I have two apples and a pear in this grouping. And this is the Dave Wilson backyard orcharding method of growing fruit trees, and also grow a little fruit tree method, where you put more than one fruit tree in the same hole. These were planted in 2009. They're mature trees, and we've got a bunch of fruit on them. I bagged them with all the bags that I had. I think there's 250 bags on here, and I only got about half the fruit. But here's what my pears are looking like right now. This is an unbagged one. And luckily, it looks like there's no bug damage on that one yet. Some of them have damage, some of them don't. This is a September Wonder Fuji with some bagged apples and some unbagged apples. Those are the sizes of them. The apple tree back here is a Jonah Gold, and it is delicious and it gives me huge fruit. So I'm really happy with all these apples and pears. So we're gonna have a good harvest of these this year. These are my columnar apples right here, new this year. So they're not looking as healthy as I would like them. The leaves are a little anemic, but I think they're just, it's just the first year. Once they settle in, they should do fine. We're gonna leave one apple on each. I bagged that one right there. This is a Scarlet Sentinel. Did not bag this one here. And this one is a North Pole, which supposedly tastes just like a Macintosh. Everybody I've talked to compares it to a Macintosh, so I'm really excited to see how this tastes. Over here we have a Slovatsky pomegranate. The one in the front, I'm sorry, this is a Kazaki pomegranate. The one in the front is a Slovatsky. This is a Kazaki. And it made it through the winter. No flowers on it or fruit yet, but it's its first year, or it's only had one winter. So I'm assuming next year we'll get fruit. This is where I planted my ashwagandha. I'm going to harvest these for an herbal root crop, and I will link the video up above so you can know what those are and what they're used for. And I've struggled with my Arctic raspberries. I'm not exactly sure what the issue is. I finally took out the regular mulch, put down some blood meal because you can see they're very anemic and nitrogen deficient, and then mulched them with some of the compost mulch in the front and see if they do better. But I'm hoping for some fruit eventually off of these. It may end up being next year if they can pull out of the funk that they're in. They did overwinter and come back, so I do have some hope for them. We have 3 varieties. The 4th one did not make it. This right here is my little pawpaw seedling. It's a tiny baby. I had 3 of them. I planted them on a night where it was going to get into the 20s. I didn't think it would be a problem because they'd been outside in the 20s in pots. But for some reason, they didn't like to be planted in the ground and have it be in the 20s. So anyway, this is the only one that survived. but it's one of my own seedlings and I have high hopes for it. We'll see how it does. This is a sea kale that's doing really well. I think I'm going to divide it next year and plant more along the edges of this pathway because it's doing so well. This is a Ronde de Bordeaux fig. It's brand new, just barely planted. We'll see how that does. It's supposed to be a really early fig, and I'm excited about that. This is my Nameless Fig, and it's featured in my fig update video that I already linked at the top. So this still has not produced any figs, and if it doesn't produce figs this year, and if I don't see figs next year, I think we'll have to replace it with something else. This is another Chicago hardy fig that was not protected over the winter, and it's coming back from the roots, but it's not going to have time to bear fruit, so I'll protect it next winter. This is a little fig I just about yanked out of the ground because I thought it was gone. It's a Negrone, which I think is also the same thing, or really very, very similar to the Violette de Bordeaux. But it's coming back, and I'm really excited about that. So we'll protect, this one was not protected well enough over the winter, so it died to the ground. So we're just going to protect it better this coming winter to make sure we can get some fruit next year. This is a Nikita's Gift Persimmon. It's its second year, and it's produced flowers and fruit. Now I would be really, really excited about this, except I know a couple of other people who've grown Nikita's Gift in this area, and I've also seen some videos that it goes through a heavy fruit drop later in the summer. And so far, my friends who have these, they say all the fruit has dropped off, generally speaking, in August. I can hope. It would be really fun if we can get some fruit to harvest off of it, but we'll just be realistic and assume that it's probably going to fall off. Therefore, if it does not fall off, we can be really happy. This is a brand new Giro Persimmon. It's the Ichi Kaike, I think is what it's called. I'll put the name up at the top. But it's an early producing Giro. The winds have done a number on it, but I think it should survive and start growing really well, hopefully next year. That's what happened with my Nikita's Gift, is it did a lot better growth this year than last year. This is a brand new Parfienka pomegranate. I planted one, I think it was early in the spring. It didn't survive, but I got another one. So it's looking a lot better. We're getting new growth on it. So the Parfienka is a soft-seeded pomegranate that's supposed to do really well, but I think it's a little less hardy than the Slovatsky and the Kazaki. So we'll protect this over the winter and see if we can get some fruit off of it. We have a blue banana honeyberry that never gave me any fruit this year, but I am hoping for next year. I'm really excited about this. It's supposed to be one of the sweeter honeyberries. Now here's the two other pluots that I talked about. I featured them in my How to Do Summer Pruning on the Fruit Trees video. I think this one right here is a Flavor Supreme pluot. This one's a Flavor King pluot, and they will pollinate each other, and they'll pollinate my Dapple Dandy that's way over there between the blue spruces. This is another exciting one that's struggling just a little bit, but I think it should pull out of it. It was just planted a few weeks ago, just before the heat hit. This is a Gomi berry. This is a sweet scarlet Gomi berry, and I need to get a pollinator for it, but every type of Gomi berry is sold out right now. So I'll probably just have to wait and pre-order it in the fall for next spring. But we're going to get a pollinator for this and try Gomi berries. They're nitrogen fixers. I'm not buying them for the nitrogen fixing properties, but I'm buying them because they're going to be a really cool fruit to have. This is my Shinko Asian pear. We just finished doing the summer pruning on this. It's looking great. We're getting a lot of good side shoots off of it. It's a very vigorous grower, and I'm looking forward to possible fruit next year or maybe the year after that. We got another honeyberry. I just planted it yesterday. This one is a honey beast, I think is what it's called, and it's to pollinate the blue banana. I think next year I will do a honeyberry video when I have fruit that I can show, and we'll talk about how to do pollinators. But just a quick overview is there's early, mid, and late honeyberries, and they each have to have a pollinator from their own specific group. So the earlies need an early pollinator, mids need a mid pollinator, lates need a late pollinator. So I think my Aurora and Borealis are early. This honey beast and the blue banana are mid, and then maybe I'll get some late honeyberries. We'll see. These are brand new blackberries, triple crown blackberries that were planted. And look at this. We're going to get a sample of blackberries. I'm really excited. They're starting to grow in, they're flowering. And we'll have a few blackberries just to sample. I've lined my fence with grapes. We're going to get a heavy, heavy production of grapes this year. This one's a himrod. The next one's a seeded Concord. Then we have a Swenson Red that is also seeded. After that, we have a Cannabis, and then up under the peach trees is a Jupiter. And they produce in succession. So by the time I'm finished harvesting one variety, the next variety is ripening. The himrod is first, and the Concord is last. And I've been harvesting a few raspberries here and there, but they are having an issue right now that they've had every year. There's definitely problems on them. They're not looking great. I may need to put some fertilizer. I don't know. They're really having a problem this year. I may have to just be done with raspberries because I cannot overcome all the issues that they have. But I love them, so we'll see. But one of the main problems is this right here. And this is raspberry cane borer. You can see how it's dead at the end. We've got a borer that's probably worked its way down to here, and I need to cut the top off of these two. See, this one's got it also. So if I can cut the top off of them and cut it down to where I've removed the borer, then it will not work its way down to the crown and kill the crown. But we've got several of them with borer in them. But it's just been an issue. Raspberries have been an issue. This is another backyard orcharding method done with peaches and a nectarine. We have a nectarine, is the back one. This is an O. Henry peach. And this is an early Alberta. And these were all hit severely with the early freeze with the late freeze that we had this year. The flowers had just opened fully, and we hit 20 degrees, and I lost 90% of the fruit on these. So, the people that were saying, oh, it's going to be okay, at least we've probably got 10 fruit on the early Alberta, when usually we have hundreds. Probably have 15 to 20 fruit on the O. Henry, which we usually have at least 100, couple hundred. And we have 15 to 20 fruit on the nectarine, which usually has hundreds on it. So I'm going to enjoy each and every one of these fruits happily. Usually I have enough to share with neighbors, but this year, unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to share. I will be using everything that I have here. Hopefully they stay on the tree. But the thing that I can start harvesting, and I'll do a separate video on that, is my cherries. And I need to harvest these. This crop was reduced by 50%, and it's very quickly being reduced even further by the birds. Now, I'll go over this in the next video that I do today, which is my cherry harvest. Look how bad they're getting eaten. This is really early to harvest the cherries, but they are still very tasty right now. But if I want to get any, I need to harvest them now. And the other thing about harvesting them now is the worms that are in them are too small to see. These do have worms in them, but the worms have not matured to the point where you can see them yet. I know that sounds gross, but I also pit them. I put them through a pitter and soak them, so any worms that are in there usually are gone by the time I'm done doing that. And then I dry them and freeze them, the ones that I don't eat fresh. Now this right here is my new Serenade Elderberry. It's a Sambucus nigra, and it's planted to be a pollinator for my laced up elderberries. Now this one is going to have gorgeous fall color. It's going to be a reddish color. And from what I've heard, the new growth in the spring comes in kind of pinkish. but I'm really excited about that one. It only gets, 6 to 8 feet tall and wide, so it's a little bit smaller than your regular elderberries. This is a Santa Rosa plum. I thought I lost all the fruit because of the freeze, but we're gonna get a couple. You can see one right there. It's not gonna be a harvest we can write home about, but we are going to get a harvest. So there we have it, the not so quick tour of my food forest. Everything is growing in beautifully. We can at least harvest cherries right now. Service berries will be close by. We've been harvesting raspberries, and I'm excited to see what else we get this next year and in the years following. So if you like my videos, I hope you like and subscribe, share them with your friends, and if you've been planting a food forest, please let me know what you're harvesting right now. And go enjoy yourselves in your gardens, and go have a wonderful garden adventure.